Hey guys, Chad Trofkerman here from the Incredible Tutorials YouTube channel. Jim Mills and I have teamed up with Smith Micro to bring you these brand new Anime Studio 10 tutorials. So I hope you're ready because we're about to get started. So in this tutorial, we'll be taking a look at 3 different ways we can rig characters or objects in Anime Studio Debut. The first will focus in on your bone strengths using just one vector layer. The second will bind our layers to bones, called layer binding, and then the third method will use binding points. All of these will work in many different situations. It just depends on what you're doing, what your style is, and so forth. And you can even combine these methods if you want when you're working on your own projects. So first, let's focus in on this single layer one. We can take the Add Bone tool to start, and you can see we have a bone layer with just one vector graphic inside of it. It looks like a bird. So we will just select that bone layer, and with that Add Bone tool still selected, we'll start at the bottom of the bird and hold down the mouse button and draw a bone up and release. This will be the main or body bone that will anchor the character. So next, we can draw a bone out on the left wing and then connect it with another one like so. Now we'll want to select that middle bone, which you can do by holding an Alt and clicking, or you can use the Select Bone tool, and we will draw a second set of bones on the other side. Now the reason why we want to select that body bone is so that we can adhere to the hierarchy of bones. We want everything connected to that body. So now, when we take the Manipulate Bones tool, you can see that we can move this around. And we're on frame 0 right now, so we're not doing any animation. We're just kind of playing around with it here. But if we want to animate, we can come down here to the timeline and go to frame 1. And we will then take the Manipulate Bone tool and click on all of the bones to create a keyframe for all those bones. Go to frame 8, and then with the Manipulate Bone tool still in hand, we'll just move that first bone down for each of the wings, and we can also do the same then for the second bone on those wings, just like that. And then we can go to frame 18, and we could move everything back, but let's just copy that frame with Control-C and then paste it on 18 with Control-V or Command-C, Command-V if you're on a Mac. So now what we can do is go to frame 5, and using the Transform Bone tool, we can come in here and make some more tweaks. We can break the bone if you want to refer to it as that. And then that just gives us kind of some additional movements, and we can do the same now on frame 14. With that same tool, we can come in here and just rotate the bones down like so. Again, to kind of give off the effect, we are breaking the bone. And now, on frame 18, we can just create a cycle if we wish, have it cycle to 2, and then we can click OK, and then it will allow us then to just kind of repeat it forever and ever and ever. So that's a little bit on how you can animate with one vector layer. Now we have an arm. If we render it out, you can see it's just a basic arm. And it's made up of 3 vector layers in a bone layer. We have a bicep, forearm, and hand. So what we'll be doing here is showing you how to use all 3 of these and link them to their own bones. That way, we can create a different movement that doesn't use the bone strengths. And again, it just makes things a little bit different, and usually this method is better for limbs in other situations. So we will use the Add Bone tool on that bone layer, and we'll draw from the top of the arm down to about where the elbow would be, or where the bend of the arm would be. And we can then bring the bone up close to the hand, and then one more for the hand. So pretty simple. Now, if we take the Manipulate Bones tool and just use the bone strengths, you can see it works okay, but we still have some kind of weird stuff going on just because of those bone influence clouds. It just kind of creates some things that we may not want. So that's where bone binding will come in here. So we can select the hand and then click on the hand vector layer and then select the bind layer tool in your bone tools and then click on that bone hand layer. So that's red and highlighted. That means it's now set. We can click on the forearm and then click on the bone that's drawn on it, as well as the bicep. So now, if you come over here to your Manipulate Bones tool and move around, everything is linked now to their bones. And in fact, we can just get rid of these strengths. It doesn't do us any good. It's just more of a visual thing, so we can kind of see what's going on here just to get rid of them. And the Manipulate Bones tool, as you can see now, allows us to move this around, and it looks pretty good. It looks pretty convincing. And all you really had to do was just bind those vector layers to their bones. Pretty simple. And again, it just works in a different way, and what method you utilize will depend on your situation. So be sure to keep this one in mind when you are animating your characters. So now we'll take a look at how to bind points using the help of a duck. Yes, a duck. So we have a duck bone layer and a duck vector layer. The vector layer has all the components of the duck, pretty much like how we had the bird set up in the first example. So what we'll want to do here is add some bones, and you'll quickly discover here that we're going to have to do some different things here in order to get it to work. So we'll start at the bottom here and draw a bone out for the body, and then we'll come up here to the chest bone, and then from the chest we will go to the neck, and then from the neck to the head. Now we can alt-click on the chest bone and then draw out the bones for the two wings. So we'll draw one here and another right there. Alt-click the chest bone, and then we can draw out a second pair of bones for the second wing. Just like that. So now, still on the bone layer here, if we look at the bone strengths, we can see that they're minimal. But if we go to the Manipulate Bones tool, things just don't work out that well. And the duck is more advanced than the bird. And that's part of the reason why we could get away with more with the bird. Here, we can't even bind the layers to bones because we only have one layer. So we have to find another way. And really, even if you reduce the bone strength, it's not going to do you much good. And you basically have to do what we call binding points to bones in this case. So first, we will click on that duck vector layer, and what we're going to do here is we're going to start with the body, and then we're going to work our way outward. So we will take the body bone layer and then select the bind points tool, and we're going to highlight everything and then click bind points. This will ensure that no point is left behind, essentially. Everything is accounted for right off the bat, and you don't have to count points and figure out which ones have been bound already. At least they're already bound to something, which gives you an advantage as you start to work here. So, from here, what we can do is select another bone. So we'll just kind of work our way up here. We'll select the chest bone, and now we can take that bind points tool, and holding in shift, we'll select that point and that point, and let's do that point as well, and then bind points. Now we can go up to the neck and do the same thing. We can select some points here that we want to use, and in this case we can just select the whole head, because now when we go to the head bone, we'll be eliminating those other points for the neck, just like that. So we're taking those points, then removing it from the neck and placing it for the head bone. Now for the wing, we can then take the bind points tool and then come in here, holding in shift, just clicking or selecting, I should say, and then we're going to select one down here. Let's try that group. And we can then release and bind points. And for the last part of the wing here, we can come in here and just try to get those three, and then maybe that group right there, and then bind points. Now for the last wing, again, just the same thing. You kind of have to eyeball which points belong where. We can bind the entire wing to that first one, then come into the second one, and then determine kind of where those belong, and then bind points. So now, what we can do is we can use the Manipulate Bones tool. Now the bone strengths, they have no use. They're not going to be doing anything. In fact, if you want, you could probably just turn them off by going to the Bone Strength tool, holding in Control A or Command A, and then just moving to the left. That'll just reduce all of them so you don't have that distracting, cloud thing going on, since you don't need it anyway. And you can see now things move a lot better. Now, it's not going to be 100% perfect, because what you have going on here is still just one vector layer, and it could still have some issue, especially with that wing right here. You can see it, it's still attached to the body. You'd probably want to create a separate layer for that, so you would have you'd have to move it pretty minimally in order for it to, work. But as you can see, for the most part, things look a lot better than they did when we just had straight up bone strengths for a rig like this. But anyway, that's all for this tutorial. If you'd like more information on Anime Studio, you can visit the official Anime Studio website at anime.smithmicro.com. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you next time.